Hey, in this video, I'm going to talk about treating every creative project or really anything you're doing in life as an opportunity to grow. Instead of focusing so much on the outcomes that you want from that particular project or activity, focusing more on the opportunity to grow as a creative and as a person. And what's got me thinking about this is I just hosted an improv show last night, improv comedy show here in Bali. I hosted and performed in it. And we had a practice the day before, and I was coaching the other performers that were to be in the show. And they're all students or former students of mine. They took my classes, and now I'm just coaching them to get ready for this show. And I told them that your goal for this show is not to put on a good show. Your goal is to become a better improviser. And here's like the skill I want you to work on. And I started thinking about that for myself, both specifically for that show that we did last night. How can I become a better improviser? But then also expanding out to my entire life. How can I treat the things I'm doing as opportunities for growth and look at them that way? They all are already. Everything you're doing, everything that happens to you or that you are doing is an opportunity for growth. It's a matter of if you're seeing it, if you're taking that opportunity, and if you're using it to grow and taking away the lessons and actually growing from it. And I think that I know for myself, I've left a lot of opportunities for growth on the table, meaning I haven't taken the opportunities to grow in a lot of situations because I'm so focused on the thing itself and what am I doing, and also getting affected by all the interactions with other people. Another thing that happened last night, by the way, great show. And I felt like I grew as an improviser just playing some more wacky characters. My comfort zone is the straight man, right? The normal one in the comedy scene. And playing some more wacky, absurd characters is growth for me. So I felt like I grew. But I would say the bigger opportunity for growth happened, I think, after the show when some other improvisers that I didn't invite to be in the show confronted me about that and were like, why aren't we in the show? And that was very uncomfortable for me because on a personal level, I like them as people and it's not a personal thing. They haven't taken my classes and really demonstrated their competency in the style of improv that we were doing the show in, which is the classic comedy style of the straight and absurd, the straight man and the absurd man or woman. Doesn't have to be a man, obviously. That's just the classic comedy term, straight man, but just the normal character and the wacky character. And there's a lot to it. But if you watch comedy movies and TV, you'll see that most scenes have at least one straight character, one normal character. Again, straight here has nothing to do with sexual orientation. We're talking about just the normal one and a wacky character. And then if there's more than two people in the scene, obviously there's more. But if you pay attention to comedy movies and TV and sketch comedy, you'll notice that most scenes are played in this way of having a normal character and a wacky character, at least one or more than one. So anyway, point being that these particular improvisers, they're in the improv community here in Bali, but they haven't demonstrated that they can play in the style that I was doing the show in, so didn't invite them to be in the show or the last few shows that I've put on here. And so they were angry about that. And in the moment, I was somewhat defensive. I didn't get too defensive. I just was stating basically what I just said is, yeah, these are for people that took my classes because I'm doing a particular style of improv and I haven't seen you do it and you haven't taken my classes. So I try to keep it to just that. But I was definitely a bit defensive and I didn't really acknowledge their pain. I didn't really acknowledge, oh, they're hurt by not being included. And obviously that goes deeper, I think, for people feeling not included. That's a natural human instinct, is to want to be part of the tribe, because back in the day, we needed to be part of the tribe to survive. Otherwise, if you're out in the jungle or the wilderness alone, you would die back in the day. So we evolved obviously to want to be part of a tribe. And everyone gets triggered to some extent when they're left out of something they want to be a part of, right? Any kind of group thing. So that's normal, understandable. And so, of course, I understood. And then, of course, if they have placing some of their, I don't know, self-worth, self-value on their improvisation skills, if they're thinking of themselves as a good improviser and then they're not getting invited to be in the show and they think that reflects on their improv or how I see them as improvisers, and that hurts their ego, hurts their feelings. And that's understandable also, of course, if I'm pursuing something, I think I'm getting good at it, and then there's some sign from other people that they don't think I'm that good, that might hurt my feelings too, of course. Anyway, point being is, in the moment, especially the way that they came at me was very confrontational, and so my kind of defenses went up, and I was just trying to like keep the peace, but I was defending myself and defending my actions, and I didn't really acknowledge their pain, which I think was the missing piece for me, and that's where I have an opportunity to grow. Is I tend to, any kind of confrontation like that, I tend to go out of my feelings, out of my body and into my head, and then just here's like the logical answer or the logical response or the logical defense or the logical argument to whatever is being, thrown at me. And that's what I did last night in this situation. But I think the opportunity for growth for me is to connect to my feelings so I can connect to their feelings and be more empathetic and acknowledge their pain, which is not the same as making them, which is, I think, sometimes how it feels for me is, oh, well, they're not right. In my head, I'm like, they're not right. I'm right. So let me just explain to them how I'm right and they're wrong. And when someone is obviously hurt, that is not going to help. Me telling them in whatever words that I'm right and they're wrong is not going to help, even if my arguments make sense and they're logical, and even if most people, third-party observers, would agree that I am, but that doesn't change the fact that it's not going to help them feel any better. It's not really going to help our relationship. I think that is one opportunity for growth for me, is to not just acknowledge people's feelings in like a headway, oh, I can see you're upset, but more empathetic, more empathy, oh, I really understand why they're upset and identify with it and communicate that to them in a way that is respectful of what they're going through. And yeah, so that's one big opportunity for growth for me that came up last night in the midst of this show. Another one is stepping into the spotlight and receiving praise and acclaim, basically. I hosted this with my friend. We were the co-host, and basically the show was a series of two-person sets. Two people would do 3 improv scenes each. And so there were 3 pairs before us, those 3 sets before us, and then me and my partner went last, and we put on a great set and got a lot of laughs, and then there was a lot of praise and acclaim coming my way after the show. In other words, people coming up to me and telling me how great my scenes were and the characters I played were really funny and all that. And that's uncomfortable for me. It's uncomfortable for me to receive praise and acclaim, and I'm actually more comfortable receiving criticism. And that's a combination of things, I think, in terms of what I can assess now after doing a lot of inner work and therapy and stuff. Of course, there's the having a low view of myself, and then somebody communicates a higher view. It doesn't match up if I have a lower view. And so then I am more likely to reject it. I have automatic action. Nah, that's not right, because I have this lower view of myself. So that's one thing that's going on. Of course, I got the idea, as I think a lot of people do, as a kid about being, you're supposed to be humble, you're not supposed to brag. It's like rude or mean to brag and this sort of thing, be an egomaniac or egotistical. Just the ego, right? That's become a bad word to a lot of people, which is preposterous because nothing wrong with the ego or having an ego. In fact, you need a strong ego to succeed in a lot of things. In anything that involves you doing something special or unique. So whether that's art, whether that's business, you need a strong ego. Otherwise, the ego is what makes you think that you are unique and special. And if you don't think you're unique and special, you're not going to make good art or make good business or anything. Because what's the motivation, or what's driving you, or what makes, like, how do you even give yourself permission to do it if you don't have a strong ego? Strong ego is good, but that being confused and conflated with being arrogant and rude or mean with that arrogance to other people. And so getting that idea in my head as a kid, I think that's taught in school, like elementary school for most of us. And I think, so that I think has lasted also in adulthood, where reluctant to speak even positively about ourselves in any kind of strong way. And when compliments come our way, or come my way at least, to negate them. In other words, like last night, for example, people praising me about how good I was in my scenes, and then I would deflect the praise to my partner, being like, I had a great partner, he was great, and deflect the praise, as opposed to just receiving it, being thank you. But I did do some of it. I didn't completely deflect it. Some people I did say thank you, and then added like, oh yeah, my partner was great too. So I did both, which is at least progress. I didn't completely reject it. So I did acknowledge, I did say thank you. That's some progress, that's some growth, but I definitely have more growth to go in that department. Even just standing on stage and receiving applause was challenging for me. Like after our scenes, I didn't even wait for applause. I just called everybody that was in the show back up for a big group bow, and I was standing on the very end, the side of the stage. And even that, I was like avoiding just receiving applause from my scenes. Room for growth, opportunity for growth. And I'm just trying to look at more and more of what I'm doing as opportunities for growth, and how can I do it and really apply that growth, not just acknowledge it in my head, but actually work on it and grow. So I'd encourage you to do the same. Start looking at, what you're doing as opportunities for growth. Creative projects, right? It's, oh, you got to write a great book, write a great script, paint a good painting, play a good song, whatever. Well, what about, instead of focusing so much on like the piece itself becoming a hit or selling or whatever the case may be, to how can I use this to make me a better artist, a better creative? What's the opportunity for me to become better in this? And you look at everything you're creating as an opportunity to become a better creator, and less about like the piece itself. Same thing goes in business, work, relationships, anything. It's how can I become better at this thing through this activity or pursuit, as opposed to focusing so much on the results of that particular project itself. So keep tuning back in. I'm doing these videos daily, and I'll keep you updated on my growth as I continue to go through life here in Bali. Thanks for watching.